China's trillion-dollar signature project, the Belt and Road Initiative, that aims to build a train line that starts from the provinces of China in the west towards West Asia and secure water routes around the world, has a rival. It's another economic corridor that stretches from India to Europe, passing through key regions in the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, and Greece. This rival project was announced at the G20 summit in New Delhi on September 9th, and it's called the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC for short. So is there any new need for a new economic corridor? This corridor is essentially an alternative route to bypass the Suez Canal, going through the Persian Gulf instead of sailing further south around Yemen through the Red Sea to the Suez Canal. The project is expected to begin in the port of Piraeus in Greece, and from there, it is expected to head by sea to the Israeli port of Haifa, then by railway to Saudi Arabia and to the UAE via Jordan. From the UAE, goods will be loaded onto ships that will make their way to Mumbai in India. The truth is that this route just doesn't benefit some of these countries. Saudi Arabia and UAE have their major trade going east, while the European countries already have a proven economic route to Asia through overland rails that takes 15 to 18 days. The corridor is supposed to cut transport time by 40%, but really? The proposal is multimodal, consisting of land and sea sections which are harder to support than either exclusively land or maritime routes, with cross-border issues of various regulations, taxations, and customs procedures. But why would the EU and the US want to spend billions of dollars to subsidize Indian trade with Europe, currently at $94 billion, to bypass the Suez Canal? Basically, the US is trying to create an alternative route to compete with China's ongoing project, One Road, One Belt, and is helping India to become the new factory of the world, so it acts as a counterbalance to China's dominance in manufacturing. So who are the losers if the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor becomes a reality? China, Iran, Qatar, Turkey, and even Russia, to some extent, are extremely unhappy about this new route as it bypasses all of them. But the biggest loser of them all will be Egypt. Egypt will lose massive amounts of much-needed financial revenue created by the Suez Canal if the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor is established. Egypt, which controls the Suez Canal, through which 10% of the world's trade and 7% of global oil shipments pass, will be the main loser as a result of this project, explaining that revenue from the Suez Canal shot up to $9.4 billion in the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 from $7 billion from the previous year. For Egypt, which has debt to the International Monetary Fund amounting to $12.5 billion, this revenue is vital. A reduction in the dependence of Europe and India on the Suez Canal and a shortening of the time taken to transport goods between them by means of the new transport corridor is liable to be a critical blow for Egypt, potentially cutting the Suez Canal revenue in half. Besides Egypt, the next country negatively affected will be China. The India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor rivals China in two different ways. First, as an alternative to the Belt and Road project, the Chinese project that aims to build a train line that starts from the provinces of China in the west towards West Asia and secure water routes around the world. Secondly, this corridor impacts China because it serves as an alternative to Egypt ports and the Suez Canal. China's presence in Egypt's strategic ports has grown noticeably. It manages the operation of 2 Egyptian seaports and terminals with concessions of up to 38 years. Chinese companies are handling the management of the Suez Canal, a critical maritime waterway that handles 12% of global trade. The canal serves as a primary route for China's westward shipment of goods, including around 60% of its exports to Europe, representing 1/10 of the Suez Canal's annual traffic, making Egypt an integral part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. The growing link between these two countries is reflected on the $13.2 billion worth of imports from China to Egypt in 2022. Another big loser of the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor project is Turkey. Ankara views the India-Middle East-Europe Corridor as a threat to Turkey's historically central role in transporting goods between Europe and Asia. Erdogan said there can be no corridor without Turkey, threatening to part ways with the EU. It has proposed a third corridor as an alternative to the IMEC and the Belt and Road Initiative. This third corridor, already under construction, will comprehend railway and road lines extending through Iraq through the cities of Baghdad and Mosul before traversing over the Turkish border and onto Europe. It is also predicted to provide Iraq with access to Mersin port on Turkey's Mediterranean coastline. The Turkey-Iraq plan comes amid wider friction between Turkey and the EU. Erdogan has long attempted to frame Turkey as the mediator between the US, EU, and Russia during the Ukraine war, but Turkey's non-alignment strategy is now backfiring on the economic corridor front. Amid increasingly polarized international relations, Turkey's friend-to-all, enemy-to-none approach, successful for so long, might jeopardize the success of their proposal for a corridor. So the winners are: if the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor project becomes a reality, it will create a change in the current status quo of trade routes between the East and West using the Suez Canal, and it will make Israel and India the big beneficiaries. And it looks like they have been planning this project for a while. In January this year, a consortium led by India's second richest man completed the purchase of Haifa port, reviving hopes of creating a trade gateway connecting the terminal and the broader Middle East, including Saudi Arabia, which does not have ties with Israel. A smiling Netanyahu praised the $1.2 billion deal and said he hoped it would usher in more connectivity between our countries. The bid was 55% higher than the second highest bid. This was not just a purchase, it was a statement of intent. The deal, one of the biggest foreign investments by India in any Israeli sector, saw India's consortium acquire a 70% stake of the now privatized Haifa port, while Israel kept the remaining 30%. After the acquisition of the Haifa port, Israel's second largest port, by a consortium led by India's Adani Group, the port is being transformed into a world-class facility that can be an alternative route, besides challenging China's growing footprint in the region. The port development plus the potential revival of the Israel Canal project will make the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor even more competitive against the Belt and Road Initiative. The Israel Canal is an ambitious project that aims to connect the Red Sea from the Gulf of Aqaba to the Mediterranean Sea, potentially rivaling the Suez Canal. Such a canal ending in a world-class port could not only improve Israel's position as a geopolitical player, but also offer its allies an alternative route, freeing them from any potential dependence or pressure related to the Suez Canal and making the Haifa port as a true gateway connecting the East to West. This canal will transform the India-Middle East-Europe corridor into the India-Israel-Europe corridor. Stay informed and watch for our upcoming video on how to build the Israel Canal. Subscribe to stay updated.